Okay, good morning. This is Mark Pletberg, and thanks for joining our first virtual event, the Virtual VDI Performance Summit. I'm pleased to have you here. I'm talking to you from Amsterdam, but we've got a packed agenda. People from all over the world, industry experts, renowned experts will be talking about their subject matters of expertise, giving you the highlights of how to get a good performance in VDI, and how to make it even better if you already got a good performance. We've got cool speakers, we've got cool sponsors, there will be raffles, there will be giveaways, and we're just slowly waiting for people to log on to the virtual event. In the US, people are getting their morning coffee. If you are on the West Coast, it's really early for you, so grab a big cup of coffee. The first two keynotes will be Ruben Sprite and myself. We will be entertaining you for the next 90 minutes, starting from 9:30 EDT. So make sure you have a nice piece of breakfast, a nice cup of coffee, and we wish you a good time. If you have not yet looked at the agenda, I have the agenda for you here. Like I said, we will start with a keynote by Ruben Sprite, senior technologist at Nutanix, and he will give a broad view of the market perspective for 2019. He's been doing a big survey. He's got a lot of interesting things to talk about. Luckily, I had a sneak preview of his session already, and he's pacing around here very excited, so ready to start. At exactly 9:30 EDT, he will walk into this frame, and he will kick off this conference. After that, myself, I will talk about VDI performance tuning for 45 minutes, and then we'll let you go for some coffee. Now, what's great about the coffee is also there is an expo. So not only do we have sessions, and do we give you time in between to drink coffee, we also allow you to visit our virtual expo. Our sponsors will be there. You will be able to walk into their booth, ask questions, use the chat. If you have follow-up questions for the presenters, you can go in there, ask the teams. But also, if you want to ask questions during live presentations, I would like to encourage you to use the Q&A function in this webinar. We will be monitoring the chats that come in, and if we do have an opportunity to answer any questions that come in, we will answer them. So, let's see. Second part of the agenda, it's very long out, so we're going to handle this a little bit later on. The afternoon is fully packed. So for those on the EDT time zone, you're in luck. Your full day is packed. On the West Coast, it will end a little bit early in the afternoon, which is great. And for me personally in Amsterdam, it will end around midnight. So talking about speakers, I'm really excited about these guys. Last but not least, we've got Jack Madden. He runs brianmadden.com. Already very confusing, but he knows everything of the state of the current market, and he will definitely share his vision on VDI. Next up, after me, will be Ruben. He will be kicking off this conference at 9:30 EDT. Mr. Blair Parkhill, he will give you top tips on performance, for sure. Myself will go into performance tuning. I'm really excited to have Martin Zukac here. Martin is actually the creator of the Citrix Optimizer. So he will have a lot of in-depth knowledge on how to optimize Citrix systems. And he might also have some announcements for new versions coming up. Then we've got Brian Martinowicz, who will show you how in a few days, with our software products, you can save millions in your environment. So he has cases from the field, right? We're not going to bore you with marketing material. He's going to show you exactly what he's done at our customers to improve performance by a lot. Then we also have Hilco Lantinga, the creator of the operating system optimization toolkit by VMware, right? So Hilco will be talking about that. Nick is a very cool guy. I've recently presented a Citrix tips webinar with him, but what's awesome is that he will go even more in-depth on optimizing for VDI performance on different platforms, right? Citrix systems, but the good thing about this is that the tips are generic, right? They probably will also work out perfectly fine on your VMware environment. Now, Afreen, I'm getting word from my colleagues in my little earpiece that people are not able to log on yet. I don't know if that's correct, but I'm just going to continue on as nothing is happening. So we've got Rob Girard, one of our sponsors is Tintri. I'm very excited to hear what he has to say about their technology. We've got Kees Baggerman from Nutanix, who will definitely have some cool stories about how Nutanix is optimizing in the field, their performance. We've got Jared Engslow. We've got Jed from Agile, which is going to be very cool. We've got Andrei Lebowski. And of course, we also want to thank our sponsors. Now, Flexible IT, Cisco not just for sponsoring this event, but they also sponsor all of the hardware we have in our lab. So a double thank you to those guys. Nutanix, not just for sponsoring the event, but also Ruben for being here and doing the kickoff keynote. We've got Datrium, who are sponsoring just as Agile, Tintri, and Pivot3. Now, that's not all people. All of these vendors will also be doing giveaways. Some of them will be raffled at the end of the day online in a live session. And some vendors have chosen to send you an email when you win. But the idea is to have these raffles and have the winners. And of course, you have to visit the expo to be able to win. So if you visit the vendor booth, you can apply to win a gift card. In the case of Tintri, in the case of Cisco, you can win these wonderful Bluetooth earbuds. In the case of Flexible IT, they've got this Bose Bluetooth speaker. Pivot3 is giving away a drone. Very cool. I'm going to try to win that one. Then we've got Datrium, who are giving away a pair of Apple AirPods, and Agile with a skateboard. So I'm curious to see how that works. But you're not going to see me on the skateboard. Again, for those of you just joining, we will be monitoring the chat. So if you do have questions throughout the webinar's Q&A, don't worry, log on, hop on and ask a question. We'll be seeing the questions appear here on screen. If we have time to answer them, we will do so promptly. Otherwise, we will come back to the questions later after the webinar, or you can always walk into a vendor booth at the expo to ask the questions there, but the product specialists. So, Afreen, is it correct that there's nobody in the webinar yet? Also at the expo, you have the opportunity to talk to a lot of innovative companies. When you just came into the expo hall, you saw a lot of signage, and all the signage allows you to go directly into a booth, or you can go into the exhibit hall. In the exhibit hall, you will find all of the sponsors, walk into their booth and chat live to their personnel. They're really kind and specialist people, and I'm sure they can help you with all of your VDI performance problems. If alternatively, you would like to attend a live session, so nothing is pre-recorded, everything will be done live today. You can walk into the auditorium and have a browse around there. All of the sessions will be broadcasted live. If you do miss a session, I believe that 30 minutes after the session, you can log on again and look at the replay of the session. Next up for today, we've got Mr. Ruben Spruit. He's already standing next to me. He will share his views on the market perspective. And as we are nearing the moment where he will start, I will now swap the presentation to his. So I'd like to thank you for joining us today. A warm welcome again from Amsterdam, but also a warm welcome from my colleagues in Boston, Denver, actually all over the world. I hope you are going to enjoy this day. And for now, let's switch to Ruben. Thank you.
All good? Audio good?
I think you're ready to start.
Yeah.
I see people attending, so we're good.
It'll be good to see my screen as well.
Yep, let's share. I have to change this one away. It's probably in front of it. There we go.
Ready to go, Mark? Almost?
Almost. There we go. We're ready.
Good morning. Good afternoon for us. So for many others as well. It's a little bit awkward to be here in front of many people I don't see yet. I know there are many, close to 1,000 people registered for this great event. So welcome. In case we didn't met each other in the past, my name is Ruben. I'm Senior Technologist at Nutanix. And In this 45 minutes, you will learn market perspectives around end-user computing, and specifically around VDI and application remoting. I'll use the knowledge I gained in my professional and also community career, and hopefully you also enjoy this great event. So let's get started. Market perspective 2019-2020. Ask yourself, what was the most disrupting development in 2018 or early 2019? Interesting question. It took me some time to think about what is really disruptive. And one of the things I did see some months ago was around deepfakes. And deepfakes is the ability to merge existing audio or video from people like Mark or me or Putin or Obama or someone else, and plot that into someone else's picture or someone else's moving picture, like in a video. And some interesting videos like this one I will share right now pops up. Unbelievable, huh? Yeah, that's interesting, right? When you see these kind of movies, you could ask, well, what is real and what is fake? That's what I found disruptive, challenging, interesting. What is also disruptive in 2018 is that rockets did land vertically. And Elon Musk and his company and his colleagues made that happen. I did read this book past weeks. It's a great read about SpaceX and Tesla, around Elon Musk, his personality, and also how he is leading different organizations. Great read if you're interested in tech and in people behind technology. Ask yourself, what will change in the next 10 years? What if you look at these names, Nosedive, Sand Juniper, Crocodile, Be Right Back? What do you think? Or what do you think if you see this picture? Or maybe this picture? Or maybe this picture? Maybe you already have a clue what the direction is where I'm heading to. It's around Black Mirror. And Black Mirror is a Netflix series. And Black Mirror is like future prediction for you and me, mind-blowing, crazy filmmakers, or with an unfiltered imagination, or both. It's crazy, it's awkward, it's awesome when you see these series. So if you don't know Black Mirror yet, if you have access to Netflix, it's an interesting outlook into a combination of social, drones, technology, AR, VR, things we see in our space. If you want to get a glimpse of what's happening in the future, Black Mirror is a great example to watch. This is all like in the realm of 2030. Let's be real and go into like the reality of now, 2019 and forward looking into 2020. Maybe you've seen the 10-year challenge. And if not, I just picked up a couple of great examples. Like 10 years ago, we had phones with like weeks of battery life. 10 years ago, we had like data centers like this. Look at the data centers right now. 10 years ago, we had Toblerone with chocolate like this, and look what happens in 10 years, right? 10 years ago, you maybe had this vision, and 2019, you maybe bought a pair of glasses. 10 years ago, like look at this, my six-pack. Right now, need to bicycle and CrossFit to keep that posture, if possible. 10 years ago, we talked about VDI and the year of VDI. And still we talk about the year of VDI in 2019. The year of VDI didn't happen. We still talk about VDI, and Brian and Johan and other community friends, they we spent a ton of time in this topic, the year of VDI, yes or no, and it didn't happen. What if a large IT vendor announces something great, something special, something geweldig in Dutch? Run apps on 4K with 60 FPS, high-end graphics, run instantly, access anywhere, no client, no agent, no receiver, just use a browser to access the platform. It's a service that's always getting better on the fly. Essence, remote app, .next. And what if this is available late this year, early 2020? Imagine the audience of this great announcement is 2.2 billion people, not million, billion people. Welcome to Stadia by Google. Stadia is a game streaming service. And when you look at the technology behind, it is VDI. It's remoting. It's a remoting protocol. It's accessing a data center. It's accessing machines which are running apps. It's using a clientless access method, a browser, to access these apps. That is Stadia by Google, and that is VDI. Yes, the application is different, games, than business apps. But when you think about the concepts of Stadia and other similar solutions in the making, like from Microsoft, it is VDI. I'm not exactly sure how Zoom presents this when you watch this, but I checked it over my Zoom connection at home, and it looks pretty well. Yeah, I can see it as well. Ah, great. Yeah. So it's not as fluid as on my machine, but audio should be good enough. You get a crisp what is happening here. This is announced, I think, 3-4 weeks ago. Cool. So this is VDI. Is a year of VDI happening? Yes, big time. 2020 is the year of VDI. Not only with Google's Stadia and other examples, I will share more, but I can see it happening. And also Jack, who will present later, wrote a blog post probably like a week and a half ago, something like that. He and his colleagues of TechTarget did a survey, and that survey concluded more than 2,000 people like us in the industry, and they asked questions. And one of the summaries of that is that they see a huge uptake in VDI planning, highest they've ever seen so far. And you can see, like in these with the content below, you can see what they tested and what they asked in the past years. Also, with the community project VDI-likeaPRO, we want to share some results. And we, as Mark and as Christian and myself, we run this community project. It's just a side project. It's something we like to do, we love to do. We are doing for many years already, since 2013. And we ask different kind of questions. And I want to share some insights so that you can learn from your peers in the field. The survey is still open. If you go to VDIlikeaPRO.com, probably some days or maybe 1 or 2 weeks, you can fill in the survey. So if you've not already filled in the survey, please help us and yourself by filling in the survey so that we can learn from that. Survey is around 10-ish minutes, so it's a pretty big survey, but it's like a wealth of information. And I want to spend some time in some of the results of that survey. While talking about the year of VDI, you can first ask, is Windows relevant? Because if Windows is not relevant, then VDI in our space, in the end user computing space, isn't relevant. So maybe you can ask yourself, do you care? Do your customers, do your colleagues care about Windows in a cloud and mobile first world? It's a fair question. It's an important question. If we ask this question from VDI-likeaPRO perspective, you can clearly see that Windows apps in small, medium, and large environments are still a core asset to get stuff done. I have 3 kids, almost 19, 16, and almost 13. When I look at what they use at school, it is also Windows and SaaS, like software as a service, web applications, and mobile. They use Windows apps today. Some of them have Chromebooks, some of them have Windows machines, but both use Windows apps also at school. In our office, Nutanix office, previously Frame is being acquired by Nutanix, August last year. We also use a mixture of apps, Windows, mobile, web applications, modern application, classic applications. That's what I see, and that's what people in the survey also responded. When we look at Windows 10, we asked this question a couple of times. What kind of operating system do you use for VDI? And it's great to see that 2019, Win 10 took Win 7 over. So Windows 10 is the OS people use most of the time when using desktop virtualization. Or, that's another question I don't share yet. The response I don't share yet, but the other question is what's the roadmap? What's high on the planning side? And Win 10 is clearly winning there as well. So why did the year of VDI not happen yet? It's a good question, and the audience is too big to have a dialogue about that. So what I did, I just looked back and thought, well, what's the issue with VDI? And I believe there are 3 challenges historically with VDI, and not only the VDI from a desktop perspective, but also application remoting, desktop as a service, like this whole industry, like virtual client computing as a whole. It's complexity, it's cost, its user experience. And this event, today's event, is all about these 3 things. And as we as consultants, as leaders, as vendors, as IT pros in general, if we can solve these 3 things, then VDI will shine and VDI will be great. And that will help in building the year of VDI. So how to make it happen? How to make the year of VDI happen? I think the first one is the infrastructure for desktop as a service, virtual desktop infrastructure and app remoting should be extreme simple, high performance and extreme cost efficient. It's like a dialog box like this one, not like an on and off switch. From my perspective, and that's not because I work for Nutanix, even before Nutanix I had the same view, I believe building blocks where you can just add new capacity, add new performance, and add these building blocks to your data center, independent of vendor. My talk is not about a vendor. My talk is about what I want to share is things happening in the industry. Use building blocks, use Lego building blocks to increase capacity, to make sure that cost is controlled, to make sure that you use what you need to use, to make sure that performance is right by using smart storage solutions, making sure that you collapse complexity and make it extreme simple, hide complexity. If we ask the question from a VDI-LikeaPRO perspective, what kind of storage technology are you using for desktop virtualization application remoting? You can clearly see that software-defined storage and hyperconverged infrastructure is winning. And also funny and interesting is that local storage is also winning. Both flash, not surprised by that to be honest, but local spinning drives is also increasing. I don't know why. Mark and myself and Christian, we need to check what's happening here when we finalize the survey. But storage is a super important part in both cost and user experience. Optimizing storage, choosing the right storage platform, using building blocks to design and build and deliver a great desktop virtualization application remoting infrastructure. But also when we talk about cost and about complexity, cloud and public cloud is disrupting the norm. The norm today is on-prem VDI, on-prem application remoting. And with Microsoft entering the desktop as a service, application remoting as a service, space with Windows virtual desktops, it acknowledges of this huge market potential. Microsoft, in my personal opinion, is not entering this space to be successful with $100 million of revenue. They want to make Azure strong and stronger. They want to make sure that Office 365 is strong and sticky. They want to compete against Amazon with workspaces and AppStream. And they tried before with Azure Remote App. They tried before with Citrix Essentials as an example. And they didn't work well because these two solutions were not built for public cloud. That's why they rebuilt desktop as a service platform. First with RDMI, like internal name, internal Microsoft name, and not there yet, not GA yet, but with Windows Virtual Desktop as a platform. Why is this important? Because more and more customers, yourself, will bring more and more data to public cloud. And we all know, or most of us know, is that when you bring the app and the data close to each other, you get the best user experience. That's why it's also important to run apps and desktops in clouds or in multiple clouds. When we look at this larger landscape with Citrix and Nutanix through acquisition of Frame, VMware, Amazon, Microsoft, of course, but also smaller companies, Aerocom, CloudJumper, Parallels, Workspot. These are vendors in the virtual app and virtual desktop space. I've created many smackdown documents around desktop virtualization, GPU, application virtualization, user environment management, these kind of things. Normally, you don't start with feature comparison at all. You start with why. What's the idea? What's the challenge you have? What's the problem you want to solve? How does the current landscape look like? What kind of knowledge do you have? What kind of next steps do you have for company and for IT department? And then you talk about vendors in that space, and then you talk about features. When you look at this landscape, it's good to know how to segment this landscape. And my view on segmenting this landscape is to ask the vendor, when are you born? And what was the design criteria when you start developing the product? And if you ask that question, or if you think about that question, maybe a list like this pops up. This is my list I created to help you in determining, hey, what is best? This is not about good or bad or good. This is not about VMware is better than Citrix, or VMware is, or Amazon is better than Frame, or Frame is better than Citrix, or Microsoft is better than VMware. It's not about that at all. It's about what's the challenge you want to solve, what's the idea you have, what's the direction you want to take, and what kind of solution from a design perspective fits best in that approach. Is it like enterprise VDI, on-prem, co-location, maybe a couple of locations, maybe for DR in this extra location, often local region, fixed capacity, CAPEX, so cost intensive, longer time to innovate. Sometimes that is great. If you're just slow moving, it's great. But if you want to move faster, because your organization and your users are faster, that could be also a challenge. Fixed stability, low elasticity. These are ingredients on the enterprise VDI side. When we look on the other side, on the desktop as a service side, it's multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-region, pay for actual usage. Maybe it's an hourly price or a monthly price. Extreme agile, OPEX driven, so not hundred thousands, maybe millions of dollars, euros, or pounds as investment. Well, you can really start small. You can start maybe with 5 users and spend like $500 and see how things work. Maybe you start really small for a small business unit in your organization. Extreme flexible in usage. I've seen customers with, in education specifically, with 500,000 students, but the concurrency is much lower, maybe 2%, 5%. And also during spring break and during Christmas times, nothing is happening. Well, not so much is happening. So very low usage. But before these breaks, a huge spike is happening. That's what I mean with flexible usage. Fast time to market, every week, every month, new functions, new technologies being added. So highly innovative. And elasticity by design. That's one of the design criteria when you design a desktop as a service platform. API driven, extreme simple to use, multi-cloud, small segments, so you can also use multi-tenancy very easily. These type of things are part of the right-end desktop as a service side. What I see happening is that vendors in the enterprise VDI side are trying to move to the desktop as a service side. Why? Because customers are also in a transition phase. Maybe not now, maybe tomorrow, maybe already now, depending on the state you are from a company perspective. And companies who build a platform with public cloud in mind will connect that to on-prem environments and will create a hybrid environment. That's what I see happening. Ask yourself, what are the biggest challenges in adopting public cloud? That's a question we asked in the VDIlikeaPRO survey. And that survey, again, is still open. So if you want to help the community, if you want to help peers, and also be educated, fill in the survey, VDIlikeaPRO.com. Appreciate it. And this question is one of the questions. And the response is like this. Cost is the biggest challenge people see with public cloud adoption. Cost can mean like many things on different levels, but you want to have cost control. And from an end user computing perspective, it means that capacity management is a crucial element in the desktop as a service solution. But also different instance types on public cloud resources like Amazon or Azure should be there. Today, if you ask me, especially from a GPU perspective, there are not enough options. And that could also increase cost. There is no vGPU, slicing of GPUs in public cloud yet. Yes, Amazon have multiple GPU options. They have G2 and G3 and even elastic graphics. But both G2 and G3 instance types, different instance types in both families, is a DDA, a direct, like a path-through GPU, a direct device assignment in the Microsoft world. Microsoft, they have NV, Nico, Victor instance types, also a path-through GPU. Maybe you want to use, or you need to use GPUs, but maybe a slice of GPUs. And today, that is not easy to do in a VDI type scenario. Also, in the context of public cloud and clouds, don't be a lemming. Cloud first doesn't mean cloud only. Think about what's the use case, what's the idea, what's the problem to solve. And with that in mind, yes, cloud is not something scary. Cloud is there. Cloud is great. It's great to see the pace of innovation in public cloud. It's great to see end user computing vendors entering that particular space, disrupting that space, as I mentioned earlier. So for me, it's not about enterprise VDI or enterprise server-based computing or desktop as a service. For me, the reality is hybrid. I truly believe that when it's designed with desktop as a service in mind, it's much easier to connect to on-prem than the other way around. And we'll see how time will tell. But that's what I see happening, and also happening with other vendors in this space. It's not about, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about Nutanix Frame versus VMware or VMware versus Citrix. It's about how can we as the industry be smart? How can we solve cost, complexity, and user experience? And when we can solve that, we can win opportunities. Because the biggest quote competitor is not A versus B in the VDI or application remoting space. It's the PC, it's mobile, it's software as a service. And sometimes it's not even competing, because reality, as I mentioned earlier, is that you and myself, we use a mixture of tools, devices, apps, unified communication, collaboration, identity management, different management tools in general, and all these things combined is end-user computing. End-user computing is an awesome industry, and application remoting and desktop virtualization is also great. Is geweldig, is what we call in Dutch. Super in English. But it's not the complete stack. When we look at this one, run apps No games, up to 4K 60 FPS, high-end graphics, instant access anywhere from any device, no client, agent, receiver, browser as the platform, always getting better on the fly. You could think, well, that's Google, that's Stadia, that's gaming as a service. Correct. But it's great to see that many also in this EUC space are making these things happen. Like you can see here, I'm using a browser. I'm accessing, in this case, a Windows full desktop. I can also access just a complete app environment. Without installing anything, I can do 4K, 60 FPS, running Windows apps as a service. Could be high-end graphics apps like Adobe, Autodesk, can be legacy browsers, can be maybe plugins, whatever you would like to run. That's great about our industry. We can make this happen, device independent. And yes, this machine is running in a cloud location. Like with the gaming streaming engine, your gaming VM is running in a Google data center. And a data center, especially with games, should be as close as possible to the actual end user, because latency will kill user experience, and especially gaming experience. So that's why there are like many smaller points of contact with Google Stadia. So I talked about complexity and solving cost and complexity. Let's spend some time around user experience and performance, because this whole event is about like VDI Performance Summit, and performance and end user experience are really well connected to each other, or should be well connected to each other. So when we talk about user experience, or when we talk as an industry about user experience, what does it mean for you and for your customers and for your colleagues? It's the actual user experience, something you see, your colleagues will see with their eyes happening on screen. And also platform performance. Like VDIlikeaPRO and Project Virtual Reality Check in the past, and also friends of ICTR, were really busy with platform performance testing, finding best practices and share best practices on events like this. That's important. It's important to know what happens if you update XYZ to Windows, what happens with your platform performance, what happens with your scalability, what happens when you add antivirus, what happens when you change from OS 1 to the different OS, what happens when you use a different Office version, what happens if you use security patches, or if you apply security patches for Spectre and Meltdown, things like that, and Mark will share more. These things are focused on platform performance. Yes, it might have impact and probably has impact on user experience. But imagine you just measure CPU load 90%. You could say, well, that's not a good thing, or maybe it's 100%, that's not a good thing. The question is, what's the real user experience look like? So who cares about platform performance, performance testing and validation in public cloud? Do you care about scalability in public cloud? Do you care about like login VSI numbers for public cloud? Actually, I don't care, because that platform is designed to be scalable. There's no need to find the limits of Azure or to find the limits on AWS. Maybe you want to find limits on your XenApp or RDSH host if you're running that machine on Azure. That makes sense. But finding the limits of desktop as a service, as a platform, or if you use VDI, that's useless, because that platform is scalable. So platform scalability testing in public cloud is not something you should care about. What you should care about is these kind of tests in your on-premises environment. Check, makes total sense. But what's even more important is virtual user, remote user experience monitoring. That's the key element. And what I'm seeing, and I'm also, from a development perspective, see happening is vendors like Login VSI with PI, but also community friends like Benny Tritch and Kristen, who are building solutions to measure the real user experience. Sometimes create a virtual user, or to capture actual user data and connect telemetry data to that, so that you can do side-to-side comparison, like Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola test, these kind of things, with real user recordings and telemetry data combined. Because your job and our job is to desuckify a shitty user experience. And especially the first part of this quote is what Kristen and Benny created. What I added is like managing expectations. That's nothing to do with technology. Use best practices or smart practices, or use your practices, processes, and the right tools to de-suckify a shitty user experience. So we talk about, and I want to share my insights around user experience and performance with you. Talked about performance and user experience, performance and scalability testing, and user experience and remote user experience benchmarking. I also see that GPUs are becoming more and more important in our space. Not only because we run high-end graphics applications, not only because more and more apps benefit of GPUs, not only because more and more remoting protocols like Citrix or VMware or Frame benefit of GPUs. So they can offload tasks to GPU instead of to the CPU and do encoding on GPU level. More and more apps are using GPUs. Maybe segments or slices of GPU. Maybe you have a high-end graphics app that uses maybe multiple GPUs. I see that as well in the field. So we have to ask a question with VDI-likeaPRO. Which GPU do you use for your on-prem VDI server-based computing app remoting solution? You can see that the biggest competitor is not AMD versus Intel or Intel versus NVIDIA. I wish, to be honest. It's good to have competition on that side. We are lacking right now on that particular area. But no, the biggest competitor is CPU. You, maybe others who don't use GPUs yet because there's no need for it, or maybe they believe there's no need for that. Could be. It's great to see that over time, GPU adoption is increasing. It's a pity, though, that competition is not fierce enough. Competition is a healthy thing, not only for GPUs, but in general. It drives innovation. It helps us in the field. It helps customers. It helps yourself. Iron sharpens iron. More competition from AMD and Intel is needed, and it's a good thing. Right now, NVIDIA is leading this game. They are a great company. They have great products. They have great software as well. But it's always good to have competition. Thinking about that one. What I see today in public cloud, the amount of options for GPU is limited. Yes, we have GPUs, as I mentioned earlier. Yes, these GPUs are powerful. Sometimes these GPUs are not up to date. Maybe I want to use an V100 for end-user computing, or maybe I want to use a P40 for end-user computing. The question is, does Microsoft with Azure or Amazon Web Services, do they have instance types which will reflect to what I need for my application? Yes, it's great to power on 300 or 3,000 workstations like right now. If I close this keynote and I can log in, I can spin up 3,000 machines. Yes, I need to pay for that, but I can make it happen like this. On-prem, really tough. This whole procurement cycle, setup cycle takes ages, takes a long time. The beauty of cloud is that it's super flexible and you can spin up machines extreme fast. Sometimes the downside of public cloud is that you have less control of what is happening inside that machine from a hardware resource perspective. Maybe you want to use a CPU with a very specific clock speed because you have a single-threaded application like Revit. And this application benefits from a high clock speed. It doesn't care about multiple cores, things like that. In public cloud, you're bound to what Microsoft or Amazon or Google, the big cloud providers, what they defined as instance type. On-prem, you can go to the HPE website and you can configure your server. You can go to the Nutanix website. You can go to the Dell website. You can go to the websites and you configure your server. Add smart storage to that. In public cloud, it's different. So that's what I would like to add as well on this particular slide. So in summary, you learned what's happening in the VDI application remoting market space, how the outlook looks like from 2019 and 2020. The year of 2020 is the year of VDI. Boom, it is happening. Look what's happening with big vendors. What's happening from an acquisition perspective. It's great to be part of this end-user computing space, and hopefully you're enthusiastic about that as well. There's no dull moment in end-user computing. Many great things happening. And yeah, that's what I would like to share. So to solve complexity, cost, user experience, to solve performance, these are the three core elements to make the year of VDI happen. And I believe that we as the industry, vendors also today, are able to fix, to solve complexity, cost, and user experience. And hopefully you gain more insights at this event, and I believe you will give more insights at this event. And if any questions, my email address is here if you want to know more. Maybe different topics, all good. Happy to read, happy to respond. And for now, I would say, great event. Thanks, bedankt, dank u wel, and see you next time. Bye.
So, Ruben, with a few minutes left.
Good.
I think it went well, right?
Very well.
Yeah, very well. Were you nervous a little bit at the beginning?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's difficult because you have to imagine we're looking at an empty room here. So
yeah.
We're really excited you guys are all here. And there's 3 other guys helping us out here. And we know the team in Boston is helping us out remote, and Blair is in Colorado. But we're literally, and we'll post a picture on Twitter of this scene right here. But
it's always tough. It's tough you don't get feedback. Normally when you're in a stage or even a large stage. I can remember, it could be 4 or 5 years ago with Benny, like in a big auditorium at Microsoft Ignite, like a room with 4,000 seats, around 1,500 people seated.
Yep.
You have connection with people. And right now we have connection like with this webcam. And right now we have connection here.
Which is good.
It's different. It's different style of presenting. It's fun though. I like it.
It makes it difficult, but it's fun. And we have to remember the people at home, they're experiencing the same, right? Mm-hmm. They are also looking into a screen. So again, we saw a lot of people who are joining during the presentation. We understand it's early. We hope you got your first cup of coffee. And we also hope you enjoyed this presentation. We're about 5 minutes ahead of schedule right now.
Good.
Which is very good. So this gives you some time to explore maybe the expo hall. There's Flexible IT, Cisco, Nutanix, Datrium, iGel, Tin3, Pivot3. They all got booths. You can walk in there, ask questions. Ruben will be available a few more minutes here for questions that if you use the QA or the chat, we will pick up. In the meantime, I will start setting up for the next presentation. Maybe you can spend a minute explaining about the VDI-ikeAPRO survey that's still running.
Sure.
And where people can fill that.
Sure. Good. So like VDI-ikeAPRO is a community project. It's all about insights, what's happening in your space or in our space. What kind of hardware the resources are you using? What kind of GPUs are you using? Are you using GPUs? What kind of OS are you using? What's the future looks like from an EUC perspective? Around, let's see, 50 questions. So it's a pretty extensive survey, but still smart and small enough to finish it in like 10, 11 minutes. That's what we see as the average time it takes to finish the survey. So yes, it takes time, but it also will help you with great insights from your peers. So if you have time, I believe everyone has time. It's more about what's the priority. If you can add the VDI-ikeAPRO survey to your priority, that would be great. It'll take 10 minutes of your time, and in return, you will get great insights of hundreds of other peers in the end-user computing space. So go to VDI-likeapro.com, fill in the survey today, tomorrow, that would be great, so that you can learn from others very soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Ruben. The survey, by the way, it takes about 10 minutes. So we got 7 minutes left, I think, until the next session. It will start at the half of the hour.
Good.
So go grab yourself a drink. Again, Ruben, thank you.
Welcome.
See you around.
Yeah, see you around.
We're going to prepare for the next session. Little bit of housekeeping. You actually have to jump over to the other session, so you can go back to the auditorium, click the next session, and from there on, you can log on and watch me talk for the next 45 minutes about how to performance tune your VDI environments, some of the pitfalls that are in there. And I'm going to jump over now, so hope to see you there. Back in a bit.